The champion Link is a master of many weapons, and when the situation calls for both range and speed, his trusty spear is never far from hand. In Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Link's spear is a straightforward and highly enjoyable playstyle that focuses primarily on forward, repeated damage, some of which has him stand his ground, and some of which sends him flying around the battlefield with impressive speed. Let's dive in and find out everything it can do. Link's regular attack string with the spear consists of 7 attacks. He will thrust forward, thrust again, sweep upwards, spin and sweep up again, stab down into the ground, spin and swing, and then finish with a big final thrust. For a playstyle that will later on have a lot of movement built into its attacks, this regular attack string keeps Link surprisingly still. Its attacks do come out quickly, even without any attack speed boosts, and it's pretty easy to time out once you're familiar enough with it. Moving on, for his regular dash attack, Link will slide into a forward thrust, moving quite a ways before coming to a stop. For his strong dash attack, Link will perform an upward slice while continuing to move forward. There's nothing extra to dig into here. As usual, you want to use the regular dash attack when you want to stop and get into a fight, and the strong dash attack when trying to pick up KOs while you're on the move. Next up we have his aerials, and for his regular aerial attack, Link will perform 2 mid-air swipes before moving into a stabbing plummet to the ground. Unlike most regular aerial attack strings, there's no room to fit in his strong aerial at the end of these if you go past the second attack. Speaking of which, his strong aerial will have him go into an aiming mode while he remains mid-air, and you can then press X to have him throw the spear diagonally downwards, and then go flying back downwards to retrieve it. There is a little bit more to go into with his aerials when it comes to integrating his unique action, but we'll get into that a little bit later. For now, let's finish off his basic moves with his Sheikah Slate runes. First and foremost, I just have to say that all of Link's Sheikah Slate runes work exactly the same regardless of which weapon he's holding. This means that I'll have the same thing to say in the one-hand and two-hand sword guides, so I'm going to try to be a little bit faster with them. Link's stasis has him time lock enemies directly in front of him for a short time. There's no extra animation built into this, he's completely free to move around and continue the attack. And of course, this rune is best used to freeze enemies while their weak point gauges are out. For his Cryonis rune, Link creates an ice block under him that sends him into the sky, from which he can either land on the block, start riding the wind, or begin doing his aerial attacks. For his Magnesis, Link will grab metal objects or weapons and then hold them in front of himself. And if he grabs something, he can move around for a short time before this attack ends. Of course, if there's nothing to grab, the rune will simply fail, but on the other hand, it won't start his cooldown. Last up, his Remote Bomb rune will have him throw 4 remote bombs in a row, and you can aim this while he's doing it. Unfortunately with this rune, he absolutely cannot dodge cancel out of it, so if you hit an enemy and already stunned them, you must wait for the animation to fully finish before being able to move freely again. With all of his most basic attacks out of the way, let's move on to his strong attacks next. For Link's first strong attack with the spear, he can perform a chargeable attack that has him stand and do a series of stabs. This attack can do a lot of damage, as well as giving him a little bit of range, as it will send out a series of wind blasts that increases its overall usability by a lot. For his second strong attack, Link will rush forward before ending up in the air, from which you can then move right into riding the wind or doing any of his aerial attacks. This is one of the quickest ways to get into the air with Link, and you can also use this to start up some extended aerial combos as well. Next up, his third strong attack will have him do a running series of attacks before vaulting into the air and finishing with a large slam and area explosion. This is another solid little bit of damage, but you can also cancel out of it during the mid-air section by using the dodge button to start riding the wind, after which you can then use all of his aerial maneuvers if you want to. For his fourth strong attack, Link will go into a chargeable series of stab attacks that works very similarly to his first strong attack, and this one also adds in a long range attack at the end if you let it fully complete. This move really doesn't take long to fully charge, and is capable of absolutely destroying both weak point gauges and health bars. It's definitely one of his strongest attacks, and is exactly what you should go for when you have an enemy time locked with stasis. For his fifth strong attack, Link will do a dashing stab attack, and you can then add add in 2 more dashes if you keep on hitting the strong attack button. Link's spear doesn't really have any large area-focused moves, but by directing this in certain ways, you can still use it to pick up plenty of KOs in crowded areas. For his 6th and final strong attack, Link will sweep upwards before jumping into the air and immediately start flying diagonally downwards again. The landing part of this move will force out enemy weak point gauges, which of course you will want to stasis and exploit right away. Due to the ending range of this move, it's pretty easy to start it up while the enemy is still far away from you, only to fly right into them and immediately expose their weak point. While I wouldn't call the spear's selection of strong attacks truly spectacular, they are very solid, with a couple of them, such as his 1st, 4th, and 6th attack, being very easy to use and extremely powerful at the right moments. Before moving on, let's take a moment to look at his unique action, which despite its simplicity can actually factor into every move I've just talked about. When used, he will cancel out of any action and begin to charge his lance, and when released does a super fast dash and thrust attack that also moves him forward quite a ways. Despite this seeming like a charge move, it actually doesn't gain much by being charged. Simply tapping it is going to get you the same effect. This move allows Link to clear the distance between him and his foes very easily between melees, and you can use it in a lot of different ways, such as re-engaging when having had to retreat due to an enemy's large special move. Also, once you unlock an upgrade in the post-game, Link will send off ranged attacks along with this, giving it even more viability for picking up KOs behind your foes. If you use Link's unique action mid-air, he will do a downwards thrust that actually has him bounce off of his foe, from which you can then use another one of these if you want. And even though it might not look like it, Link does stay in the air for quite a while, which can allow him to pull off extremely elongated and flashy looking combos. Although this is rather interesting, I wouldn't call it all that effective at doing damage. He really benefits a lot by keeping on the ground and using some of those powerful charge moves. With all of the spear's attacks out of the way, let's move over to Link's weapons and build suggestions next. These sections are going to be a little bit different when it comes to Link, because unlike every other character, he has a huge variety of options. For example, when it comes to his spear, there are over 25 different choices. What you need to know is that each of these spears, like the other characters' weapons, comes in a series of tiers, and I'm going to be putting a chart on screen to show you all of their hidden level 25 and 30 seals. However, it's important to note that his 5 best options are the Guardian Spear ++, Mighty Lionel Spear, Savage Lionel Spear, Royal Halberd, and Royal Guard Spear. For my seals recommendation, I am going to be focusing on my favorite of these, his Royal Halberd, although what I do say here can generally apply to all the others. Much like a lot of the other things in this guide, there isn't a lot of complexity to go into here. For the spear, I would recommend either having a full attack speed or full strong attack damage, as both are going to bring a lot to his playstyle, with the former allowing you to get to his weak point exposure a lot easier, and the latter build increasing the impressive focused damage of his moves, especially for his 1st and 4th strong attacks. Of course, you can also just take 2 of each of these for a more balanced approach. And there we have it, Link's spear. Let's put everything together to see how it ends up. Link's spear is one of the few weapons in this game that is exactly as straightforward as it first appears. It's fast, it deals a ton of damage, and it gives Link some distance from his target to make getting out of fights as easy as getting into them. It does lack a bit of area damage, however that isn't nearly as important in this Hyrule Warriors as it was in the previous one, so in my opinion this doesn't hold it back all that much. Link's spear is a generally well-balanced playstyle with few downsides to speak of. It's easy to pick up and immediately start lighting up the battlefield with. Even though Link has 2 other fine weapon options to choose from, I do think that this humble spear certainly deserves respect. So, what are your thoughts on Link's spear? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, along with any other details about this playstyle that I might have missed. If there's anything big that I forgot, I'll be sure to put a pinned comment below. Thank you so much for watching everybody, and I'll see you next time. Special thanks goes out to my top patrons DW7 Still Rules, Henry Gutierrez, Radiant Archiver, Ryan Poe, and True Tactician, as well as to all of my other patrons. Thank you all very much.